Swing it, boys, swing for the fence. Shove it, boys, make 'em miss. Some big league chew and a baseball souvenir. Come on, sing with me now. The Joe is home, sweet home. It's roll, tide, roll. The Joe is home, that's right. Home, sweet home. Hey, look, is that Roll Tide Willie over there? Blitz, Bama, Blitz.
Welcome again to another edition of the Weekly Joe podcast. We're 3 weeks into the SEC season, and what better way to talk about it than by having Mark Etheridge here from D1 Baseball. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. It's always great to talk ball. So let's dive right in.
That's and we're going max ball tonight. I got a lot of questions for you, a lot of insight. We were talking before. You had a lot of you've seen every team in the SEC, but two, right? And
right.
We got one more coming up this weekend. You'll be at the Alabama-Auburn series on the weekend,
Right.
and also tonight we got Roger Myers, our regular from Tuscaloosa. Drew Champlin coming to you from Hoover tonight. A couple of our regulars are off with other obligations. I'm Paul Graham. Coming to you from the office upstairs. Navy the dog will probably drop in for a visit here momentarily. But we got a lot to cover. A great weekend for Alabama baseball. New opponent at the Joe. And here we are, 9 games into the conference season, and things are starting to shape up. And it's completely unlike I think anyone had predicted with the way some things are going in some of the markets in the conference. Mark, first of all, tell the viewers or the listeners a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with D1 Baseball, have been there, I guess, since it kind of rebranded. It was a scoreboard. And then, Al Peterson came in and brought in basically assembled a dream team, right? He went out and got Kendall Rogers and Aaron Fitt, and I was lucky enough to get an invite. And then since then, it's really taken off, and it's, I think I can say it's the place for a college baseball fan to get everything they need, from scores to statistics to all the advanced stats to features to all the analysis. We have our first Nerdcast coming up tomorrow, which is our bracketology podcast where we select a mock field. We've been doing that for years, and I think that's the big thing. I mean, I started, I guess it's been 25, 26 years now, with an Alabama website, right? And who remembers this really well. And that just kind of took off, and, people seem to like it a little bit. And one thing led to another, and I've been lucky enough to sit in a lot of press boxes over the years. I know there was a time, I was thinking about this the other day, where, you'd be in a press box and there'd be Barry Allen, Alabama's longtime baseball SID, and there'd be Cecil Hurt, and he would be off reading a book that most of us wouldn't understand. Right. And then there'd be me, and then there'd be somebody from the Crimson White, typically.
Yeah, might be me. And
for a while, right?
Yeah.
And it was me, right? Because I was in Tuscaloosa, and that was part of my deal. And it was really kind of cool, because we would sit there and we would just kind of talk about the game, although Cecil's reading, and he would just look up when something happened, and then and I'm keeping score. I mean, logging every pitch. This was a slider low and away, this kind of thing. And then at the end of the day, he barely paid attention and would just write an incredible story, and then mine was just garbage compared to his. And it was just kind of I guess part you kind of understood what some of the players face. Hey, you can do whatever, you can do the best you can, but this guy's just better than you, right?
Yeah.
I watched him do that with basketball for years.
Yeah.
Just sit over there, read a book, and then the next morning I look at his story, and it's just like spot on.
Right.
I mean, just a genius.
Yeah, he was absolutely just phenomenal. And what he did, though, it really I felt like it made me better, because he didn't know it, because I wasn't really competition, but I was trying to compete to somewhere near him. And of course, you couldn't get, but it does make you better, right? And I think that's a great lesson for all of us out there, is we try to try to learn and try to improve our skills and compare it to all these, people that we really admire. They usually put in the work, right? And I think, that's just something that stuck with me, something about this.
Yeah, so D1's like that. I mean, by far the best subscription site out there for people like us that kind of live and breathe this.
Hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, publications like events. I mean, these early season events in particular. Kind of talk a little bit about it. We've talked a little bit about it here. The college media, baseball media landscape, a lot different than the basketball coverage. I mean, you take a site like AL.com and they're going to have a beat writer in Tuscaloosa. It kind of covers everything, but they may not even dip their toe in baseball until the tournament rolls around, the regionals. It's kind of a niche. It's a little bit of a niche thing, obviously growing leaps and bounds, but it has created a lot of opportunities for the D1s and the Baseball Americas, and then even like us. I mean, for instance, to talk about this sport that we all love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's grown so much too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so I mean, when I first started this, I mean, I was
calling
calling press boxes to get the score updates. Right? That was how old this was, and then we would post it on our message board, and then live stats became a thing, and then we would take it and take at that time all 12 SEC teams and have a score thread for each one, so you go to one place to get it. And now I just marvel that we've got real-time scores on D1 baseball. I mean, they're updated. We got line scores up there now. We just added that this week. I mean, it's just come so far. And then the other part that's really changed for me, Paul, is the ability to watch games on, ESPN Plus or SEC.
Yeah.
That's been a game changer because, before you really either you didn't get a video feed or you had one that was just one still camera right above home plate.
Yeah, we get that occasionally.
We still have some of those, from what I understand.
Sore subject.
Sometimes those still occur, but for the most part, it's just such a big change in the focus and the commitment that the sport has generated.
Right.
And I hope that we've been a part in publicizing this. It's certainly been part of our mission to try to publicize the game as positively as we can while still, objectively following the sport. And I do feel like with what D1 is doing now, I'll be honest, one of the coolest things is when you have something in your head and you write it and then it shows up on the broadcast that they're talking about it.
Yeah.
You think about, we're just sitting here shooting the bull and we can write something and people actually care enough.
And they consume it.
Yeah, they consume it and publicize it for you. Right. And that's been a huge part of what we've been able to do, just kind of carving our niche.
Right. The one thing I thought about today and just kind of framing some of these intro questions, ESPN is, for years has been for the major leagues it was always the go-to, the Baseball Tonight. And I mean, they were so great with that coverage for 30 years. And then you could kind of tell they cheaped it out, scaled it back a little bit. And after this year, I mean, I think they're out of the baseball business
today. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you see but I mean, they've always been the home for college baseball in the World Series and everything leading up to it. I mean, do you see a window there for college baseball to maybe step in and fill some of the programming void, if anything?
Well, there's certainly some programming windows that will open up. The question is, how much will you devote to it? And I do think that's because they certainly have a lot of talent, announcing talent that will need something to do if they're going to maintain on the staff. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed about ESPN's commitment to college baseball over the last few years, you guys probably know where I'm going here, is they used to take MLB announcers and just parachute them in.
Yeah.
And it was their first college games of the year, and they'd be the most important. And, and a lot of times it really didn't go well.
You could tell. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you've got Kyle Peterson and Chris Burke and Mike Rooney and all these guys that just live and breathe college baseball, and they're in it, man. I mean, they consume everything we write and everyone else writes, and they know the game. And I'm hoping that continues regardless of where ESPN goes with MLB.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're a Mobile native, or I know you live there. Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Sweetwater, Alabama, which is in Ringo County, and not much there. But
Ezel's Catfish Cabin.
Not far. Right on the river. Yeah, absolutely. Been there many times. But yeah, that's where I grew up. I went to college at Livingston. It's now West Alabama. And did that. And then I moved around a little bit. I've been several places. Lived in Tuscaloosa, lived in Atlanta, and now I've been in Mobile, or I was in Daphne, and now I'm in Mobile for the last few years.
Yeah. Interestingly, you told me your daughter, I believe, is a law student in Alabama right now.
Yeah. She is a first-year law student, Destiny. We're really proud. She's really killing it up there.
Yeah, well, probably a right field rager at this point, I would think. So yeah, well, we're glad to have her there, and this can be your adoptive team, even though we know you have to remain somewhat objective. But we know you love the Tide, even though we kid about D1 not loving the Tide. They love the Tide this week. I can tell they're 8 across the board pretty much. I think y'all are kind of leading the charge there. Well, everybody's believing now, I think. But
let me say this. So Mark and I have known each other probably since about 2000. We go way back, and you
were just a pup.
Yeah. I remember alisport.com. I was a big college baseball guy starting like 94, 95, a little before Wells got here. And I'm looking every year. That's where you got your projected lineups every month. And so I remember emailing Mark a few times here and there, and met him at I was covering a game for the Crimson White my freshman year. I know it was a midweek game. Alabama was not very good that year, may have lost that game, but we had our good times in the press box over the years. SE baseball was I don't know how I didn't get kicked off that message board as a young, immature, early 20s guy, Mark's site moderator. But here we are. So we go way back. I know I think Mark even paid me a little money when I was in college to cover college baseball. So obviously forever grateful for that.
Yeah. And Drew's been a good friend over the years too.
That's great.
That's great. I valued that.
Yeah. Roger, you had something?
No, you were just saying that that Mark needed to be impartial. Kendall's not. So we all know Kendall loves A&M and hates everybody else.
Yeah, we're going to talk about A&M here later on because we got some superlatives here we're going to cover, but they got a lot to explain so far. Getting into Alabama's week, the week that was another great week. A 3-1 week, midweek game that no television on the game last Tuesday. Kind of a sore subject with a lot of folks, but we called it a carriage dispute. I think between our own broadcasting network and the Trash Pandas, who had carried that game a couple of years ago. Roger, your thoughts real quickly on the UNA game at Madison?
It was great venue again. They really put on a good show up there. And we mentioned, we mentioned last week that it was just such a perfect spot for a Trout game after sweeping A&M and and Tennessee's coming to town 2 days later for a 3-game series, and they pretty much played like it was. UNA came in at 7-14. I mean, there's no business, really sticking with it. I mean, but everything's like that happen in baseball, but couldn't hit the ball. What do we have? 5 hits?
I think it's like 5 hits all night.
Yeah, 5 for 30. And then come back on the weekend, and we're knocking around the so-called number one D1 pitcher in the country.
Damn good.
I mean, hit the ball a lot harder than what we got out of it, really.
Right.
Right. But it was just one of those tight midweek games when once SEC starts, it's just so hard to get up for those things.
Yeah.
And it was got a hit. Staten came back and got the big.
Yeah, that's good to have. Yeah.
And then of course Bronny walks it off. Really, really good at bat. Just like the other day, except for the hit. I mean, foul off, 2-strike pitches so many times, and then find one he can handle and put it away. But we got a other than maybe one guy out of the pen, we
Yeah,
had
knocked around a little. Yeah,
we had good pitching. Vinatieri's really kind of become a stable now. I mean,
yeah, he's a stalwart. I mean, he's really found a niche. Yeah.
I'm just looking. I was realizing that was this week. He pitched 2 scoreless innings. And he pitched 4 2/3, 2 runs. I mean, so basically he went 7 innings with 2 runs this week. And not with overpowering stuff, but just throwing strikes and locating.
Real guy we got out of the portal from Georgia Tech that threw a lot of innings at Georgia Tech, threw a lot in relief as a second-year guy. I think last year was a weekend starter, and started 16 or however many games it would have normally been. Chewed up innings, gave up. It looked like in his past he'd given up a lot of home runs. He's managed to keep the ball in the park with us, and I think that's been a big plus. But yeah, he was a real key to this weekend. But again, that start this week was also real helpful, considering we're dealing with some pitching issues right now just on the injury front. The Huntsville games in general, you think we'll keep doing those?
I think so. I think that's I mean, it's slow coming crowd because it's so hard to get in there.
It's hard to get out. Yeah.
In and out. And with 6 o'clock, I mean, getting there early is definitely the ticket up there. I mean, Kent and I did real well. You just, cruising in early. But I mean, it's a beautiful park, and there's growing around there. There's so many eateries and bars and breweries and stuff right there that they're building right around it. And I mean, it's the nicest minor league park. Like Regions and the Biscuit Stadium have just gone down so much. And this one's still new enough where it's really, and it's a great part of the state to have a game. I'm not the biggest fan of neutral site games, particularly in basketball, but in baseball it might be a little more necessary to me. But it was good.
Yeah, and not to jinx it with what I'm counting up in my head, I think it's 5. With 5 more midweek games to go, we haven't lost one. Mark, you see this every week. I mean, I proceeded to start kind of the hashtag, I call it midweeks as hell, when these teams get knocked off in these midweek games. I mean, every Tuesday night, I'm pulling 3 or 4 of these, top 15-ish teams that are getting knocked off. But we've managed to kind of escape that. What do you see around the country with what causes that midweek fever or illness?
It's focus.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about especially you're the SEC team, or in some cases just the power team in general, and you're getting to play somebody, and it's a really big deal to that opponent.
Sure.
And in today's world, not only is it a big deal to win the game, but it's a big deal to play well and be seen.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you have that film against good competition, and maybe in the portal. That's
right. Right.
So I do feel like there's some extra incentive into that.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say that the other part of that is any team that can remain focused. And that's one of the things I've been impressed with Alabama. I mean, it's, they preach toughness, and they preach, being the same week after week, day after day. And I think they bought into it, I know the coaching staff does that, but I think that's resonating, and that's where you're seeing it, where consistency in midweek and just consistency from day to day, you're not seeing a lot of it's getting blown out, and you don't really see that.
Drew, I've got a theory on it. Tell me what you think of this. I think a lot of it too has to do with your pitching staff and how well you maintain injury-free pitching staff and don't have that domino effect. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. I think it's kind of a tough. So I don't know how it is around the rest of the SEC because I don't pay as much attention, but it used to be, I think of when Alabama in 2006, they won the SEC championship, and they had LeBlanc, Robert, Tommy Hunter on the weekend. Then they had a guy named Jake McCarter throwing 7 innings every Wednesday. And they won all those games, probably lost one, or actually they lost to Troy. No, may lost to Troy that year on a midweek, if I recall. But this guy was pretty good. So you don't really see that anymore because you're just kind of trying throwing guys an inning or two, and because you may need them on the weekend. So we needed Blackwood and Vinatieri. So we just or Alabama, you just don't know how many pitchers. And then it's guys don't throw 7 innings anymore in games, unfortunately. So you try to just get by 3, 2, 2, and 1 and go home. So I think that's kind of the way at least Alabama seems to be going at it these days.
Yeah. And Rob and JJ don't seem to have a problem going to the Myers and the Osmers and those guys that they don't want to lose these games. I mean, they're not going to risk taking a RPI hit because of UAB or whatever. I mean, they're going to go to those guys.
I mean, there's too many chances to lose on the weekend to give away midweek games.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
And coming up.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some tough. I mean, Southern Miss next week, and I mean, UAB. and we've played. We got Troy. We played Troy. Played them down there as well.
Yeah.
Some other legitimate teams.
Sanford tomorrow or Tuesday, whenever people are listening to this.
Got them twice. Yeah, still twice with them. So so tough. A lot of tough midweeks. But a couple of years ago, we probably didn't make the tournament or because of midweeks. We were so bad at midweeks. But so anyway, all right, on to the big event. The Sooners came to town. First time for them here. I don't know. I know we've been up there.
I've seen them there before, but it's been years.
Yeah, I remember my freshman year. They came opening weekend, and that was when Lance had a really bad sophomore year as far as ERA, and he threw one of the best games I've ever seen. He threw I don't know if it was that or the Winthrop game. Mark may remember, but he threw like a one-hitter in one of those 2 games, and just phenomenal. Like walked a guy in the third, gave a hit in the third inning. He was good. We swept a doubleheader against him. Gosh, I think it was a guy named Grant Redding hit a 2-run home run in that first game to give him the edge. The debut of Peter Stonard, man, I can go back and reminisce about this for a while, but I know we played them, and I know we went up there. Roger, I don't know if you went.
I went, in
2016.
So 2016. No, it's 2017 because it was golf. No, it was.
Golf
was.
Or,
no, it was 2018. It was Brad's first year.
So was there a return trip, or was this the return trip?
No,
I mean, series.
It was just. I mean, it was just a one-off.
Okay.
Like going to like when we went to Texas and
I gotcha.
That 22 or whatever year it was.
I remember we lost those first 2 games, then won like 20-3 or something. It seemed like in that.
They blasted Jake Walters, and and he was really going pretty strong in those. And of course, I was with Kent, and it's like they had good hecklers. They were all over Jake. I mean, they really got Jake off his game. Talking about his mama and his girlfriends and his whatever. I mean, it's like he really had. I mean, I don't think he lasted 2 innings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and he was always good to go 6 or 7 or even throw you a complete game here or there.
Yeah, Mark, you'd seen this team, but I mean, we got an eye full of them up close this weekend, three days in a row, and it's remind you a little of maybe the Kentucky team last year. Yep, a little more of a run into kind of station to station.
Yeah, they're certainly a very athletic on the base paths. Defensively, they're really good. I mean, they've got some guys that can change the game in different ways. Maybe not as much power as some of the other teams you're going to see in the conference, although they have some. And I wondered what that would look like, because this is a team that won the Big 12 last year, won the regular season, and
went to Super
Regional and didn't lost in the regional round of UConn. And then they lost a ton. And they had Kyson back, Kyson Witherspoon, who pitched Friday, and one of the best pitchers in the country. And his twin brother Malachi was their closer last year, and through Sunday this series. And Cam Johnson, who was an LSU transfer, is one of the big recruits, had been pitching on the weekend as well, and he's kind of he had an illness in the game. I saw him, and he left, and then came back and didn't pitch well. So he's finally going to come back in midweek next week. So Alabama missed him completely. But Cade Crossland was really good. I mean, he was 50. He was probably 91 to 94. He mixed in, I think it was 4 pitches, if I'm remembering correctly. I've seen him pitch twice, and he was really good for Oklahoma. On the Alabama side, I think the part that stood out to me was that Alabama won this series without Riley Quick. And that to me is my takeaway from it. That and getting Garrett Staten back. Brennan Norton has had some moments, but he's 3 for 30 in SEC play. So I think having another option to go to when the matchup is right is really a big deal for Alabama going forward. And I think that if, with Alabama starting with A&M, who we all thought was going to be amazing and has been less than that, and Tennessee coming in, I saw them against Florida, and they were amazing, and I think they still are, and they're probably the best team in the country. And then Oklahoma, who had won their first 2 series, playing really well coming in, and then you're without one of your 2 big guns in your rotation. I think I feel better about Alabama now than I did heading into the series because of what they were able to do shorthanded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So 6-3 through 9 games in the SEC for us. I mean, I think you'd have told us that 3 weeks ago and just said, "Hey, I'll project you to the Auburn weekend 6-3, and you just cruise from it. Would you take it?" I don't think anyone's going to tell you no on that. You mentioned the starting pitching. I mean, the winning without quick, but the pitching performances we got. We kind of a premium matchup on Friday night. Zane Adams, who's been excellent, and Kyson Withers. I mean, 2 guys are going to get drafted really high. Probably going to have long big league careers. I mean, they both have the stuff. It kind of, you kidded about it. We were in a tweet thread, and because you mentioned a couple of things, and I threw something in, but we got Amanda upset. We didn't need to.
Nothing personal.
But what it was, I mean, what happened is Zane goes 101 or 3, whatever it was, pitches. And they fouled off 30-something pitches. I mean, they just kept fouling off. And nothing Zane's doing. It was a crazy night, and they ate his pitch count up, and so he could only go 4. We kind of did the same thing to Witherspoon, and we got him 96 pitches in 4 innings. So you were kind of left a little bit like, man, I really wish I could have watched these guys just duke it out for 7 innings.
Great point. That's a great point. And it's credit to both those lineups, because heading in, we thought we were going to watch these guys 6-7 innings. And then because not only were, because these are guys who miss bats. They're not the nibblers who are just effective through command. They're strikeout guys, and I feel like when you're able to spoil that many pitches, you just got to tip your cap at that point.
Yeah. The other thing that happens, so even though we get only 4 out of Zane that day, I say only 4. I mean, it just is what it was. We get 6 innings out of Bobby Alcock on Saturday in a game that early on I didn't know if he was going to get through 2, and maybe through 1. Even Aiden Finateri on Sunday in kind of a spot start walks the first 2 guys. And, and I mean, JJ gives a mound visit, and next thing you know, he goes 4 2/3. So they chew up between them 14 2/3 innings, leaves your bullpen with only, 12 plus to get the rest of the weekend. And that's with Alabama's bullpen and even shorthanded, without Moza, without Samaras for the weekend. I mean, that's a pretty damn good situation for us to be in, Drew.
Yeah, and I really thought we could have gotten more out of Finateri. I thought JJ took him out too soon. I know it was after that inside the park home run where Snell and Richie collided, but really impressed with Finateri and just how he battled. He walked that first guy, and that was a tight zone, which was the best zone by far of the 3. The guy,
gosh, they were all awful. Though.
Yeah, but the third guy looked like I don't know.
David, Anthony, Alex.
Alex Anthony was the last one. He was your good Dana Harvey or whoever. Dana DeMuth. The other 2 guys were Eric Gregg and that Braves Marlins game. So bad.
Angel Hernandez.
Yeah. But so, anyways, Finateri just gets in there and battles, and just. He's not scared of the moment. The moment's not big for him. And, we were sitting in front of his wife.
His wife, great girl.
Sunday, and she's really excited that he's got a really good outfield defense behind him. So, obviously, things...
We are too.
Yeah, I mean, so, there was a couple hard hit balls that just kind of outfielders were able to run down this year that they couldn't get to last year. So, he wasn't perfect, but, he gets in there and battles. And, if Richie gets to that ball, falls in between them, he probably does go out another inning. So he was
He
great.
might, yeah.
I thought Alcock, after the slow-ish start, was really good to get 3 scoreless through the middle 3. And, Alabama could have gotten him some more run support, especially these midweek games. That's the thing. That's why we're having to go to Myers, because they're not scoring enough runs. But yeah, just impressed by how the other 2 starters after Zane battled back. So we'll talk about. I know I've got comments on the offense too, but I know I'll let you get into that later.
Mark, when now Zane Adams is the one I want to ask you, because I'm Riley Quick. Everybody knows about Riley. He just throws hard, and he's a great story coming back from that injury. You've seen Zane Adams now. I mean, it's only we're only going to get Zane 2 years. What are your thoughts of Zane, kind of relative to the other Friday night guys in the league?
Well, one thing, he's as improved as anyone in the conference. I mean, he was good last year. But
Yeah.
Okay, so he's an SEC ace at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the pitchability, he's the stuff is improved. His velo's up. He added a pitch. I feel like he's a guy, if he continues to surge, is going to be he's going to be a good draft. Probably
He's going to move up those boards. Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to ask you guys, Drew, you mentioned something about this, and Roger, I'm sure you may have seen this too, with Alcock. So against A&M, it seemed like he was really vulnerable early, and it seemed to get better as the game went on.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him I guess the Tennessee game when he got lit up. I was on my trip, but I did see a good bit of the Oklahoma game. And I felt like he was vulnerable early again.
Exactly.
And then seemed to kind of figure it out, right? He seemed to land the slider, and he was better, say, pitches 40 through 80 than he was, 1 through 40. Am I misreading that, or do you guys?
No, I think you're right. It's kind of like Derrick Henry running the ball. The longer it goes, it gets better as he goes. Or you got to get him in the first, like Greg Maddux or any really good pitcher. They've always said that about.
The thing he did well, and I think the thing all our pitchers have been doing well, sans maybe an inning or two that Tennessee weekend, is they're avoiding the big inning. To me, that's a function of a couple of things. It's like you say, the pitchability, just the toughness of the guy, how they react to a second, third, and 1 out. I mean, how do what do you do with that? Do you give me a pop up? You give me a strikeout? But the other thing I think is just defensively, we're just so much better. I mean, it's the guys that would be getting on doubles in the gap or getting caught by Bryce Fowler just kind of cruising between right and center. I think that's helping these guys considerably. It's like we were talking yesterday, Drew. I mean, those guys, while they're not, I don't know how to measure it, but it's probably not. It's probably hard to measure it. But they're balls that would normally drop that these guys are picking off. And Richie and Bryce kind of go into our portal pickups. It's hard to find, I think, and I don't follow the whole country like you do, maybe, but the hidden gems that we picked up in the portal and what they're doing to contribute to this team. I mean, Mark, you think of another team that's got, the 8 or 9 guys I've got listed here that I'm thinking of that have been able to, hit on that many guys.
Yeah, well, certainly the game has changed. In the last few years, the portal has become almost the priority in recruiting compared to high school for a lot of programs. And I'm not saying that's the case with Alabama, but it's certainly they've had some lands right in the portal, and you mentioned a couple of them. You look at Georgia, and they've had a lot of success, and they're really portal heavy. And almost you look at a lot of the teams that are having the success in the portal, and they don't have a lot of freshmen who are contributing. And of course, don't really either, if you think about it. But it's so you're trying to prioritize one and elevate your roster, to the best you can. And it looks like certainly you can't argue with the results. Georgia's one of the best in the country, and Alabama keeps ascending, and now certainly weren't a top 10 team last year, and they are number 8. as we head to April. So I do feel like that's going to be something that's going to continue, right?
Sure.
And you've got to weigh those high ceiling prep recruits versus guys who may be better today, but maybe not better at the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you get from the portal, and you need a balance between the two.
And Mark, remind us where D1 had Alabama at the beginning of the season.
Unranked.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
That must have been Kendall.
Well, he hates Alabama and everything else.
You can always tell Kendall's tweets how excited he was when Oklahoma won that Saturday game compared to the midweek game. But I think with the portal, the one thing I'm disappointed in this year, if obviously there's the nitpick, is that we have not been able to get some of these freshmen as many at bats that I would have liked. Now, where do you put them? That's another question. But I just I wish there was a way that I thought maybe Peyton Steele would go in at left field when Cade went out. They put Neal out there, which I also agree with, because you got to get Brady Neal going too, because he was a key portal signee and he had not been hitting. Had a couple nice swings on Sunday, and then they hit that deep fly ball to the track, and he tracks it down and looks like he's a natural out there. So that was exciting to see as well.
Yeah.
Well, he played a lot of right field for LSU.
Brady
did.
I mean,
yeah.
He's played all over,
and he's been taking balls in the infield at Alabama all through the year, even with catching. I mean, he was working at shortstop the other day.
Yeah.
He's going to have some big moments for us this year. I don't exactly know when, but there's a star spot for him at some point.
But I had this discussion with somebody today because we all thought, okay, we were over there saying, okay, Peyton Steele will go to left or right, Bull will go to left. We'll do, because we weren't thinking about bringing Plattner in and burning the only other catcher we had. And Bryce would have to go to center, which he did momentarily. And then I was actually talking to someone today, and it's like, well, maybe Peyton wasn't active.
Yeah, could have been.
We don't know. We know JYJ was, because when Brian got hurt, he was warming up to go in just in case. JoJo's been active because he's the emergency catcher. Or was for a few weeks there. I mean, we don't really know, because we don't see the who's actually active and who isn't. So it may be that he wasn't, because you have the three starters, and then you have Mizell that can go out there. Plattner's been in outfield. Brady's been in outfield. Garrett Staten going was a surprise. I have not seen any of that. I mean, he's a good athlete, obviously, and maybe they realized, hey, Richie's just got to get cleared, and then we can get him back out there. Let's buy half an inning and then get that going. So we don't know that, so we don't know who is active, so we can't really speak to it. But with Austin and Riley and Moza out, they may have loaded up on extra pitchers.
On pitchers, yeah.
We may have had the 12 position guys we've talked about and seen, and then 15 pitchers.
Yeah. Hey, last thing I'll mention about like portal guys. Okay, again, here's a list: Fowler, Bonamalo, Torres, who's swinging it pretty well now. Kind of coming around, getting used to the SEC. Vinatieri, who was huge this weekend. Staten, who's got so much upside, been hurt. Norton, Neal. Last year, Plattner came in, Snell came in, Alcott, Buchanan. I mean, we got a lot of these guys. Has there been a more impactful portal guy than Carson Osmer, Roger?
He's been pretty important. I think you had mentioned how many of the wins he had taken part of, and I was thinking yesterday, okay, he's 7 saves and 3 wins, 10 out of 20, 25,
25,
20. That's. I'm not a math guy, but that's over a third.
A couple of those wins have come after blown saves.
That's true.
So we got to keep him from giving up some of these home runs. He's been really good and pretty reliable.
Yeah, Mark, you've seen Carson a little bit. Thoughts on him?
Well, I mean, certainly you look at that delivery, and it's a little bit unorthodox compared to what you typically see. But he's got more velo than typically guys do from that angle. So it's a hard look. Yeah, first time you see him, it's uncomfortable. I would have to think. And I feel like you know, if you want him to get you 3 to 5 outs, you're in pretty good shape.
there.
Try to
Yeah.
get more than that, you're getting greedy, I think. I feel like
And we have
like-
gone more than that.
We're going greedy.
But and particularly against right-handers, that's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, usually
Yeah.
lefties. And I know the one home run was an oppo lefty shot that tied one game up,
Right.
and then there was another one too. I think was a lefty as well.
So the weekend we win Friday 8-6. We actually come back in a game we had been trailing, have a big 8th inning, get 8 runs. I'm sorry, 3 runs in the 8th to come back and win that one. We fall short on Saturday 6-5. We actually came back, had the winning runs on, and
With Snell up, right?
Yeah, had Snell up, and he grounded out, brought just moved guys over, and then actually it was Plattner at the end that got called out on 3rd strike on a pretty wide zone, I must say. And then it was important Sunday, I think, to jump out to a big lead or jump out ahead, which we did. We jumped out way ahead, and then it got less, and then it got less, and then next thing you know, it's 8-6, and they're right up on us. But we held them off and won that one 8-6. Drew, you were going to mention you were going to talk a little bit about the offense. I mean, what were your impressions of our offense this weekend?
And this kind of goes back even the first 3 series. Really hit the Witherspoon brothers well. Knocked Malachi around pretty good, I thought. He battled through it. He pitched into the 5th, I think, maybe.
5 total. Yeah.
Got Kyson's pitch count. I got probably more off of him than most have this year. You look at how Alabama did against Liam Doyle, did the best that anybody had against him, I think. Did well against Prager, if I recall. I think they got 4 off of Prager. It was a couple 2-run home runs, but, coming in, I think he was about an 0.3, hit Nate Snead really well out of the bullpen. But, the weird thing is they didn't hit the Saturday. Crossland had like a 7 ERA, didn't hit him very well. And then the Sunday Tennessee pitchers, they didn't hit very well. I thought they hit the Saturday Tennessee pitcher, I can't remember his name, well enough. They got him out in the 5th, I think. So
Marcus
Phillips.
So Alabama's put up some pretty good game plans against some of the better pitchers in the SEC. Just hopefully they can keep doing that because they're going to be facing aces every weekend, it seems like. So hopefully they can, a lot of velo. Hopefully they can keep doing that and also knock off some of these guys who are a little unheralded every now and then as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Mark, your impressions on the offensive side of the Alabama.
Good at bats. We kind of touched on this a little bit when we talked about how they approached Kyson, just being able to fight with 2 strikes and spoil pitches. And LeBron had a great at bat. I guess it was in the loss on Saturday where comes up and like 10, 11 pitches, like that, and then drew a walk. Just I feel like that's something that's different. The other thing that's different with this team is last year I felt like they were a lot more free swinging. They didn't take as many walks, out more. And this year's team, they go deeper. And that just shows, I guess, the evolved nature of the second year, with Vaughn's approach.
You hear Rob say it a lot, and you hear the players in the post game say it a lot. It's like it's kind of a mentality. Some is cliche. It sounds cliche, but I think it's reality. I mean, it's the mentality is save it for the next guy or move it to the next guy. Get the next. I might not do it, but the next guy's going to do it. And I think it seems to be pretty ingrained in that team. Roger, you see him every day. I mean, it's
the whole
mantra.
The toughness and grit and what the third tenet is, but, and then the TRB as well. But they're a tough group of guys, and the more we see, the more we realize that Cade Snell was the right choice as the captain.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an impressive guy. I mean,
he really is.
I got to talk to him. I covered the South Alabama game where he had the walk-off.
Right.
And so it was just luck, right? So I was able to talk to him after the game, and you're in my role. You talk to a lot of college kids, and some of them are just kind of going through the motions, and they don't really know how to conduct interviews. And you have others who want to say just as little as possible because they're and then you have guys like him who just sit here and have a conversation like 4 of us are doing, and it really makes you appreciate when you
Right.
When you
He's
communicate with someone with that confidence and gravitas, right?
Yeah.
I was just blown away with him, not only what he's doing on the field, but just kind of his character.
Right. Great young man, great family. And talking about that, like I've been blown away by Justin's interviews. Like, I mean, and all the national people are getting him, and he's just so polished and just like you said, it's like, it's just really I'll do the Rob. It's but it's a great group of young men. And but Cade was right, man. I mean, he was trying to get out of concussion protocol to go. He said, I got to get out in the dugout with my guys. I got to get out there. And they go, no, you need to sit right here in this dark room and be quiet. So but yeah, they did pick the right guy. I mean, there's several good candidates on the team.
Yeah.
I mean,
but could have gone 2 or 3 probably. Yeah. But hey, here's a quick question, Mark, and you. I mean, you see it a lot. And the numbers would bear this out. Are we seeing more walks this year?
It's a walk and home run game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are right now. It's strikeouts on the mound. It's walks at the plate, and it's people trying to hit the ball out of the park. Those are the 3 outcomes that we're getting. And if you can minimize your walks ahead of those home runs, that's when you're going to have success.
Yeah. And it feels that way. I mean, it feels like you're statistically seeing more walks. We had some long games this weekend. We had a lot of pitching changes. We had a couple of rain delays. I mean, and again, you go back to the Friday night game. I mean, we talk about them fouling Zane. Every pitch Zane threw got fouled off. You get a new ball and play, I mean, just dragged it out a little bit. So I mean, it feels like we're seeing that. Okay, great. Again, a great weekend. I mean, here's the deal in the SEC. Don't get swept, right? Auburn got swept. There are a bunch of sweeps this weekend. There were 5 sweeps this weekend out of all the series. You're 3 in. You've played Tennessee, you played A&M, you've played Oklahoma. You ain't gotten swept, and you actually had a sweep of your own. So I mean, that's a good way to shape up. So a great weekend for us. Very competitive team. 2 very evenly matched teams. I mean, we could play 100 times and it might be 51-49. It just felt that way. But I think that team's going to do well in SEC play as the season goes on. Probably going to be really tough at home, in particular with style of play they have. Let's talk SEC real quick. So I've got 9 games in. There's a pretty distinctive top 5, a pretty distinctive bottom 5. I'm going to call us just right on the fringe, just right below that top 5. You've got 8-1 and 7-2. You've got Arkansas, Georgia, Texas, LSU, and Tennessee. All right. Which of those 5 would you call the biggest surprise, and which one do you think is going to fade a little, maybe? Roger, start with you. Who's the biggest surprise? Arkansas, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas.
Georgia, to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though they were really good last year, I don't know that anybody thought they would be top 3 or 5 or whatever they are right now. And
country.
And then they pitched really well this weekend, which they haven't been doing. So I was asking Brock about that, how that came about, but he didn't.
Brock Bennett, Alabama catcher.
I tried to get a scouting report, but he just laughed. He laughed, but didn't offer anything.
Yeah. Mark, who do you pick of those 5? Who's your biggest surprise of those 5?
I think Texas for me is the biggest surprise. Just they lost a ton, especially on the mound, and for them to come in. I mean, Jim Schlossnagle, you can say what you want about him, and a lot of people have. He is one heck of a coach, and he's been able to build programs. He's won everywhere he's been, and he's going to win. But
Drew,
I didn't think it would happen this quick.
Yeah, Drew, of those 5, who's your biggest surprise out of those?
I don't remember exactly. It's such a weird thing. I'd probably go Texas. I feel like they were picked the lowest in the preseason among those, but I cannot remember. I know Arkansas. I think the fact that they're just destroying people is a bit of a surprise, because they usually are very good and win a lot of games, but they seem to just be the absolute, just dominating whoever they're playing. So that's kind of where my head is with that group.
Right. So two questions on this. How badly does A&M hate Texas right now? We know it's bad in a given day, But with
Yeah.
Schlossnagle there, 8-1, and they're sitting 1-8. How bad is that situation?
It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's really just, I mean, whatever description you want to use.
Mhm.
The other part is the guy who was at your place, who built
Yeah.
you up and brought in all this talent, is now doing the same thing at your rival. Meanwhile,
Yes.
your top assistant was elevated,
Mhm.
and those
Because
same
you
players,
almost had a riot to
yeah,
keep it, right? Yeah.
those same players that were having so much success
Mhm.
are just
Uh,
it's just
yeah.
a failure at this point.
It's
There's no
brutal.
way to sugarcoat this.
Yeah. And Drew, you mentioned Arkansas. So I want some, because I had this down. We saw Tennessee. We were impressed by Tennessee. I mean, but I don't know that I was overwhelmed by Tennessee. I know you said probably the best team in the country. I want someone to convince me that Arkansas is not the best of those five right now. Give me a good, compelling reason why someone's better.
You want me to go?
Yeah,
Yes.
whoever,
Yeah.
whoever can do
You're
it.
the guy.
So I've seen them both.
Yeah.
The thing about Arkansas is that we were expecting them to be a pitching heavy team heading
Yes.
into the year, and they're really good on the mound. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the strength of their team.
No.
The strength of their team is their lineup that is just
Yeah.
bashing people, and that has been, I guess, a big surprise. So maybe, because
Yeah.
our expectations were one way and we're seeing it a different way,
Mhm.
we haven't caught up yet.
No.
Meanwhile, Tennessee, they just come out, and what they did against Florida was so impressive.
Yeah.
The way that they bounced back and
In
in
Tuscaloosa. Mhm.
Tuscaloosa was really impressive, and handling the Sunday or the Saturday, the game 3.
Yeah.
Then being able to just go ahead and take care of business. They didn't play that well against South Carolina and swept on the road. Okay.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that. Just so we're clear, you got to play well to sweep on the road.
Still,
They're
exactly.
able to do that. And I feel like there's just a proof of concept with that staff right now, with what Tony V has done, with what Frank Anderson, the pitching coach, just is able to develop these guys that kind of sit on the bench, and then they get their opportunity and they're ready.
Mhm.
And they've been doing this year after year now. And
Yeah.
I think there's more belief
Yeah.
that they're just elevated above everyone else at this
Mhm.
moment. But I'm with you. Arkansas is playing really well at this point.
Mhm. Yeah.
They go to Vanderbilt and sweep, and you don't do that.
You don't do that. That never happens. Yeah. Yeah. So who of those five, who's going to fade? You remember last year we all thought, okay, this is the weekend Kentucky finally comes back to the norm. This is the weekend, and it never happened. Who fades? Who of those five? Or does anybody? Drew, you got one?
I don't think I
I
do.
this
I
for a
mean,
living. I've got answers.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to defer to Mark on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know
Who-
schedules. I don't really know
Yeah.
personnel. I know
That's the
Tennessee's
truth.
not going to fade. I can tell you that.
No.
Let's say Texas lost the outfielder.
Great.
Yeah.
That'll hurt their lineup.
Max.
So,
I would- yeah.
Max Bullock. So,
Yeah.
so that was where I was going with this.
Okay. Mhm.
If anyone fades,
Mhm.
I would think it would be them.
Schedule's been favorable so far for
It
them.
has been, and they've got Georgia this weekend,
Mhm.
and they've got to do it without one of their best hitters, as
Right.
Roger pointed out. So I feel like there's an adjustment period anytime you lose one of your main
No,
guys.
that's a good point. Yeah, the schedule's the thing that you just kind of wild card. I mean, they've had Missouri, Mississippi State, who's even though it was on the road. I mean, who knows what that's
And-
going to end up like.
And the LSU series was their first SEC home opener.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah.
there. That place was electric.
I bet.
Right, they were fired up.
Right. All right. Let's talk bottom five. Florida, A&M, Missouri, Mississippi State, and South Carolina are all either 1-8 or 0-9. I guess it's Missouri's the 0-9. The rest are 1-8. 3 weekends in. First, I don't remember a year, and even though you got more teams now, I don't remember a year where there was that distinctive. 10 of the 16 were in that far apart. What's A&M and A&M the biggest surprise here?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, or Florida. I mean,
well, the A&M and then Florida. Florida is just decimated by injuries. I mean,
yeah, they got
center fielder, their best left fielder. They missed their 2 top starters for a couple of weeks. Liam Peterson came back this week and tried to go, and it just is not what he was. Cade Curlin, their second baseman, is out. You just, we're really talking about serious injuries here.
Every worst case.
Yeah, the thing is though, if they get even remotely healthy, because some of those guys are going to come back, I think the talent is there that they could figure it out and get back in and make the postseason. But when you start 1-8, and I've got a story on this for SEC Extra on D1 Baseball that's going to run Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
What is the path? When you start 1-8, how do you even get to 13 wins? Because you gotta really go on a run. And you know, LSU last year started 3-12.
That's right. That's right.
Wins.
Yeah.
So you can do it, but you really got to be a certain specific set of games that you play, opponents that you play, and obviously you got to win those games. And, and that's what I go through in that story.
Yeah. The Aggies, Roger, you saw them up close 3 times. I mean, you think they can recover?
They were beat down 3 weeks ago when we were out there, and fan base on down. I mean, they had some injuries in their lineup, I know, but they had 3 legit starters. I mean, they keep them in games, but they just couldn't. Lavallee, I think, has started hitting some. I think his average. I mean, he was like in the 230s when we were out there. Yeah. But losing Gorvac and
Sorrell's back, but
Sorrell was out when we were there, so maybe those guys will start with that pitching. They should always have a chance.
Exactly.
But it's just, you know, are they mailing it in by now? I mean, you know,
tough to get motivated. Yeah.
I mean, the fans were ready to ride early out of town on a rail.
They want to ride to stay that weekend.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the first weekend, and it's gotten worse. So, you know, I don't see them turning it around.
No.
Missouri.
No.
State. I mean, I don't know why maybe it's been the schedule. I don't know. Maybe they're not as bad as I think. But Florida, I'm sure last weekend of the year when we go down there, they'll be fully healthy.
They'll be loaded for bear.
Hitting on all cylinders.
Drew, does the pulmonary experiment in South Carolina end well?
It just seems like they're just kind of headed to a little bit of mediocrity. I don't know if it ends. I mean, I just kind of feel like they're destined for like maybe 3 14th place finishes, and then they're going to let them go and hire someone else. That was a really puzzling hire. I know he obviously was great at LSU, but LSU had a ton of resources, and gosh, the guy's pretty old now, I think. I mean, for the coaching circles. So I don't have a whole lot of faith that was really the right hire.
Yeah. 21 games to go in the SEC schedule. Do we see, I mean, Mississippi State, for instance, I mean, that one comes up occasionally, the coaching hot seat. How hot is that seat?
Well, I mean, they're 1-8. It's too hot right now. And part of that is the schedule. But you cannot get swept. You get Texas at home. You go to LSU. You've got to go 1-2.
Got to pull one off.
First. And then they go to Oklahoma and they lose a game. The game I was there, I saw them. They had and you guys appreciate this. They had the infield error cycle.
Yeah, I saw y'all posted that. Yeah,
and they did it with no outs in the second. It was 5 unearned runs. And obviously you lose that game, right? But the thing is, they came back and took the lead and then blew it late. But anyway, so it was I mean, they're kind of in their own way right now. I do think they're talented enough and the schedule breaks right that they could get back and make this thing interesting towards the end. Is that enough? Because you invest in that ballpark, you have great NIL deals, you have a lot of advantages that other programs don't have. Just squeaking into a regional is not the expectation.
No, not the standard. And then you get to the tier we're in. I mean, we're sitting 6-3, so we're knocking on the door of being in that top tier. I mean, we're a game away basically. We're there with Ole Miss, and then OU's a game behind us, and then you saw how evenly matched those were. And you got 3 teams at 4 and 5. I mean, of the Ole Misses and the Alabamas and the OU's, who's the most likely to make a leap into that upper tier? I got an idea on that. But,
I think it's Alabama.
Yeah. We probably all feel that way. Mark, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? You've seen Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is looking like a 16-17 win for
Okay.
SEC.
Yep.
I think that's where Alabama is.
Hmm.
I think Vanderbilt and Auburn are maybe a game or two off of that, depending on how things shake. But so if that happens, and you've got those 5 teams at the top that we talked about earlier, and then you got Ole Miss and you got Alabama and you have Oklahoma,
Right.
I feel like it's also in that, right where
That
Alabama
next rung. Right.
then those are all going to be teams competing to host. And it's going to depend on RPI. It's going to depend on who you beat and who you lost to, who the other contenders outside the league are. But it's going to make for a really exciting stretch run.
It will. Yeah.
Hopefully, if people will show up and support, these programs for these big games that they're going to play late in the year.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Drew, player of the year in the conference so far. Who do you? I mean,
gosh, I just haven't looked at conference stats. I mean, I could say our guy LeBron, but I don't really know who else is hitting. I mean, maybe Georgia's got guys who have hit zillion runs. I mean, Tennessee's got Keelan, maybe who's done really well, but he didn't play against us. I don't know how he did over the weekend. So I will pass along my answer to Mark there, who obviously pays a lot more attention to this for a living.
Yeah. Who would you call it? Who's your maybe hitter of the year, pitcher of the year so far? If you had to,
it's Jared Jones at LSU. It's Rylan Zaparansky at Georgia. It's Justin LeBron.
It's LeBron. Yep.
Gavin Keelan. It's those are the guys that are in the running.
Yeah, they're the running.
It's chocolate or vanilla or strawberry. It's what's your preference. And then on the mound, it's Kyson Witherspoon. It's Liam Cole. Those are probably the two guys, but I think that one's more open. So somebody that that catches fire down the stretch, it can come in, because Doyle hasn't been as good in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
he was a phenomenal the first few weeks, and now he's kind of come back a little bit.
Right.
So it's opened up, and of course, all of these guys, you don't have a lot of Paul Skeens who just dominate everything. So you're going to have some volatility in that week to week, and I feel like that whoever can minimize their bad outings, and so their stats don't take a hit, is going to end up winning that award.
Liam Doyle has regressed some, much to the delight of the Ole Miss fans. There were so many when we beat Tennessee that night. There was so much. This is a Liam Doyle, that we all know. The real one is back, and all this stuff. And he wasn't awful. I mean, but he wasn't untouchable.
He's still getting a lot of Ks. He's just not being as dominant, keeping the base track.
Yeah. Right. And don't sleep on our guy Riley Quick. I mean, obviously, he's going to have 7 more conference starts and get that finger well. We think it's going to be in good shape for the weekend. We saw some pictures. I mean, you've seen it up close, Roger, but his dad showed me some pictures of the before and after, and it's moving along. But there was no way he could have gone this weekend. It was pretty bad. All right, good. All right, so great wrap around the SEC there. Enjoyed doing that. Let's talk a little bit about this Auburn weekend. You're going, Mark, so you're probably digging into it. Roger, you'll be there. I'm not going to make it, unfortunately. Auburn has turned it around a little bit. I mean, they're 20-8, 4-5 in the conference. Coming off this sweep at Georgia, we'd probably have a different feeling about them if they hadn't given up 5 runs before they got an out in the in the last inning on Saturday of that second game. But they had that one. They were at a 2-run lead going into the bottom of half of the 10th. I think the difference with them, like last year, they ended up 8-22. I think in the conference, they lost a lot of 1-run games and just a lot of tight games. This year they've turned it around. They're 5-1 overall in one-run games. So I mean, it's a better team in those more competitive games. You'll see Samuel Dutton righty on Friday. I think. I mean, I expect that's where they've been. Transfer from LSU, who, by the way, is Mark. You probably know he's Riley Quick's cousin, right?
Did not know that.
Yep.
Riley's cousin.
He sure is.
So they won't face one another, but they'll be one day off. He's from the Gadsden area, went to Westbrook Christian. Cade Fisher, a lefty junior, transferred in from Florida. They've been throwing a freshman, Christian Chatterton, a righty on on Sundays. A guy from a Brooks High School up in Killeen, Alabama, North Alabama. I checked him out there. You know, he threw to 5 guys on Sunday, or well, the second game Saturday, I guess, and got run. So I don't know if they make a change there. You know, got one of their home relief guys that came in. I don't know, Mark, if you hadn't seen them yet. I mean, you hadn't seen them in person, but your thoughts on that staff? Is it pretty
From a pitching standpoint? Yeah. That obviously last year pitching was a problem.
exactly?
And they had certainly upgraded the talent both positionally and on the mound.
Mhm.
And getting those 2 SEC transfers has really transformed them because it kind of pushed everybody else back.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So you've got Dutton on Friday, you've got Fisher on Saturday. Chatterton has had his moments on Sunday. The last 2 starts have not been good.
Not good.
I
Yeah,
haven't you know, I haven't asked Butch this, but I would think they'll probably go with Carson Myers, who was really good against Georgia.
in
And
relief,
he pitched
long
it.
relief. Yeah,
He was long relief. He threw like 4 2/3 hitless innings or something crazy like that. If you can do that against Georgia, you can pitch against anybody. I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. But he's been kind of hit or miss this year. He hasn't done that week to week. So, you know, I don't know. I do think that where Auburn has really improved is positionally.
Mhm.
Just the talent that they've got 3 impact freshmen that have come in. Chase Freilich, who's pitching since Ike Irish kind of got injured, and they stuck him out in the outfield while he's kind of getting well. Chris Rembert, who's a second base, left field kind of guy, who's got a really good bat, and Bud Terrell, who's an outfield.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah,
I think he's from Birmingham, South Birmingham area. I mean, he's
impressive.
like the real deal, right?
Yeah, he really does.
He's the one that smoked the home run to put him up by 2, I think.
Exactly right. That was him.
Saturday. Yeah.
And then they've got some returning guys. I mean, Cooper McMurray, who you probably remember from last year, lost a ton of weight. He missed the fall and couldn't scrimmage, couldn't practice. So he worked on his body. He looks like a different guy.
Yeah.
And
still playing first base.
He's at first base.
Right.
Of course, Ike Irish is just a tremendous
great hitter.
Editor at the bat. I mean, he's really hard to pitch to. And they've got a guy, Derek Fabian, who was at Florida, who teased us for years. He showed all this ability, but he didn't really. The production wasn't there.
Yeah,
he was
his brother.
Yeah, and this year he's figured it out, and he's one of the better fielders.
His brother was really good.
Yeah. So they're Irish is hitting about 350 with 7 homers. McMurray's hitting about 343 with 7 homers. Freilich, you mentioned, is hitting 353. Cade Ballou is that guy's got a sweet swing. I mean, he hit one off us last year that, I mean, I don't know if it's landed yet. I'm out there to right field, but you know, can really swing it. So they, you know, and it'll be they'll be pretty hyped up crowd, maybe a little distracted by basketball this weekend down in Auburn, but we'll see. Here's the thing I see with Auburn. I mean, this is a big series for them because you've seen it probably. After this, LSU comes there the next weekend. They go to Texas and they go to Tennessee, or that's 3 of their next 4 series. I think they've got somebody sandwiched in there, but LSU, Texas, Tennessee. Remember those 5 we talked about a minute ago? They're all up in that group. So this is kind of one they've got to have this one, right, Roger?
You would think so. That sounds like a lot of potential losses there.
Yeah.
That
especially you're going to Texas and you're going to Tennessee, which
are
tough places.
Things don't go well when you go to Knoxville, typically, or Austin for that matter.
No. Drew, thoughts on this upcoming series?
It's going to be tough. It should be exciting. Hopefully Saturday, their fan base is watching the Final Four and not at the baseball game. So it's kind of one of those where I look at the next 2 weekends. You got at Auburn and home against Mississippi State, and you cannot go. You need to win 3 of those bare minimum.
Minimum. Yeah.
And you know, if you really want to show, hey, you're competing for a national seed, you go and take 2 out of 3 this weekend. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. How tough is Alabama on the road? How much
On the
better is
road.
Cade Snell? Or if he's playing this weekend, I didn't think about that. But yeah, so our guys are going to have to, buckle up and get in there and play tough, and I'm sure they will.
Yeah, 4-11 on the road last year in the conference, and we talked about that before. We're 3-0 this year. Hey, we got a good start, but now this is our first time back since the since opening weekend. So we'll see if we've made a jump there. Mark, you might have to predict this for D1, and we'll save it for you later. Roger, what you got?
Let's go Bama sweep.
You go Bama sweep, okay? Drew.
I don't normally do that. I usually
last year I picked a sweep and we barely won one. So I'm gonna go Alabama. I'm gonna still stay in a homer side and go Bama 2 out of 3.
2 or 3. Okay, I got Bama 2 out of 3. I'm not real comfortable with which one. It's kind of always that way, but I do feel like Riley back, Zane back. I mean, I think we got a big pitching advantage this week. I feel that. I feel pretty strongly about that. Yeah. Megan is not here with us tonight. She's up in the air somewhere, flying off. But she did convey to me that she's going back full gump. She's got sweep for Alabama, so we'll keep record on that, and we'll test and see how that did next week when we meet again. All right, let's go to a few questions from our viewers and listeners. Andrew at Andrew RK29 on Twitter. He asks, what are y'all's thoughts on the new addition of the A's on the back of the helmets? Roger, explain what he's talking about.
Similar to Buckeyes on Ohio State's helmets when they do football helmets, when they do something well. I don't know if it's home runs. I don't know if it's blue collar points of some sort, because, we have the tough, rugged D now shirts that we wear. So I think by looking at LeBron's helmet and Cade's helmet, it's obviously when you do something well, you get a script A on the back of your batting helmet. So it's kind of cut, like they're covered pretty well. And then you got a few that just have one here or there.
Yeah, you like it? I mean, it's like the dog bones on the Georgia helmets. Or not a big fan of it.
I mean, I don't particularly like it, but I don't hate it. I mean, I'm fine. I mean, it's really not real noticeable. I mean, because it's been going on for a few weeks, and we've just kind of like, I was watching BP and they were doing the button practice. So, well, there's A's on that guy's helmet.
Yeah. Drew, what your thoughts on it? You like it or not?
I don't really think about it. I don't love it per se, but it's not really something that I think about to bother me. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Next one is from Chris Alexander. He's got one about the A&M situation and just the coaching situation. Thoughts on the push from the A&M fans and some boosters to fire early, and would they go after Rob? I mean, they can't go after Rob. I mean, everyone's going to go after Rob. Let's face it. Somebody's going to go, back up a Brinks truck for Rob. Rob's a gem. What are your thoughts, Mark? Do you see not the Rob part? Because I mean, I'm talking about the early part of that. Is that a real thing?
Well, I think if things continue the way that they are, and you've invested this much money in NIL to bring in this super team, you go 11-19 in the conference or whatever they're going to finish. That may be generous. I absolutely.
One and done. Yep. Okay.
Happen. And I think the other part of that is, as we saw last year, I mean, Texas A&M had their coach stolen, right, by Texas. They went after Tennessee and Tony V. Right? They won the national title. So if you're successful, someone is going to call your phone
absolutely. Yeah.
And see if you're interested. So, as you mentioned, whether it's A&M or whether it's somebody else, and certainly he's got A&M roots.
Yeah.
That would be something he would have to listen to.
It's flattering. It's flattering. I think every year, probably we're going to be in a position that every year someone's going to make a play at and that's just the nature of having a really good coach running your program. I mean, it's just part of the business. Here's one Josh Clackler sent me about by DM. When was Roger? You can answer this. When was the last time we were in the top 10? We're consensus number 8 across the board.
Oh gosh.
Last time top 10.
No, I was going to say COVID year when we were
Yeah.
16-1, but we were 20th or 21st.
We're still, yeah.
We weren't, because we had been 7-23 in the league the year before.
Yeah.
I mean, but I know there's been a couple of years where we did really well before SEC, and we got kind of pushed up in the mid-teens or somewhere like that. But and even like we'd say 2006, but that team started slow, Drew, right? I mean,
we lost 2 out of 3 to Winthrop.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so
something like that.
It was obviously later in the year when we got it going.
Yeah.
And enough to be able to host a super. So we must have been in the top 10 at that.
Yeah.
We were 6 overall seed, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, 2010, we started off 17-0 or something.
Maybe that.
Don't know if we made the top 10.
No, I don't.
We may have to research that one.
It's probably, probably the Great Wells teams in the late 90s.
Maybe. Yeah.
2002 would have been, that was the number 3 national seed that lost to FAU. So I would have to say 02 or 06 in that frame.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's one, Tyler Wilcox, Johnny MySpace, sends this question every week. All right, this is for you, Mark. Dear Mark, why did the selection committee screw us in 2023 by making us the final host to draw Wake Forest in the second round in the Supers? And can we ask the committee to make up for the sins of the past and just make us a national seed this year?
Yeah, that was an odd 16th seed. I mean, we had Alabama higher.
Yeah. I saw as high as 11 or 12.
Yeah, it was certainly lower teens. Which would have drawn a much different super regional,
much more favorable.
Yeah. Well, we definitely should have had the spot that John Cohen put his own team in. Auburn's AD, who was the head of the committee.
Yeah, well, if you don't have representation on the committee, you are vulnerable.
And you're vulnerable. Yeah,
I think that's something that we're going to cover on our Nerdcast when we do our mock committee later this week.
All right. Good question, as usual, from Tyler. Andy Shaw here. The injury situation wants to know for multiple players, what's the expectation for Snell this upcoming weekend? And if he's limited, Brady picked a great time to find his groove with the bat because his versatility defensively gives us options. For those watching, I mean, if you were at the game or saw the highlights, we had collision in left center converging. And all right, Richie is built about like an NFL running back. And I think Cade is built like somewhere between an NFL H-back and a smaller tight end probably. So these are 2 big humans heading at each other full bore for this ball in left center. Fortunately, they didn't collide. It wasn't a full body collision, but Cade got the worst of it. He got spiked in the hand, and I think probably Richie's lower leg got him in the head or knee or something got him in the head. So Richie came back in. Cade got stitches in his throwing hand. I think 3. I don't want to say he had a concussion because I don't know there's a medical evaluation for that, but he definitely took a rough knock. So any thoughts on that? I hadn't played Rob's whole press conference, but that was a whole day ago. Any updates today that we've seen?
No, Cade was going to the doctor today, and I haven't heard anything other than that. I would obviously, I won't play tomorrow. And the weekend could be in question. And his dad seemed to think he could work around the stitches. Okay.
All right.
But he's definitely needed. I mean,
exactly.
Particularly the way he's been just so red hot. And so hopefully he'll get cleared over the next 2 or 3 days and be able to go.
Yeah.
So
I think
Mark,
you guys think
Morris, Austin Morris is probably still questionable. Riley, everybody thinks is headed toward playing, as long as nothing that doesn't bust open again or anything like that. And
Moses had a whole thing. Maybe was Moses.
Moses had some issues. Tate Robertson, I think, had a little something going on too.
Okay. Yeah.
Then Staten's can swing fine, but he's the throwing you can see him, just like playing with his hand, that is bothering him. But I don't know that there's a lot of I think it's just he's maybe just not confident in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he can swing the bat, and he's done that well in the games he's played in.
Right.
So.
And LeBron's been like a voodoo doll, man. He's like,
yeah.
But he always pops right back. He's a little bit like Janai Broom, I think.
Well, I always say early Tua before he really got hurt.
Yeah. Here's one. Haas Flowers, who sends us one every week. Good fan. How does this team do so well in the things you can't track with numbers? And he mentions that the mentality, the toughness, and the effort, for example. Drew, thoughts on this team relative maybe to some others we've had?
I think it's just the mentality from the top down. I think that's just kind of what the coaches. I mean, I've never been to a practice, so I don't know. Roger would know this better than me, but it just kind of seems like the way they work. They just they seem pretty locked in. I mean, it's like you saw them come back from 10-0 against Oklahoma or Ohio State. I mean, that was even the other losses. They battled back to have the tying run of the plate against Tennessee, had the winning run of the plate against Oklahoma. So, it's just. I think it's just kind of a built from the top, and they just kind of buy into what their coaches preach.
Mark, reputationally, this team, Mark, what do you kind of feel nationally for them?
Yeah, I think the thing that resonates with me is them. I mean, what Rob and Drew alluded to this is they don't try to be more than they are. They just sort of, okay, well, this is what we do, and we think it's good enough, and we're not going to be more than what we are. And I think as a result, that consistency, and we talked about it earlier with not losing midweek games and being able to not get blown out and things like that, and never being out of a game. Those are the things that are sticking with me as I look in kind of from the outside, trying to evaluate programs and what a job a coach is doing. And I feel like with what Rob and JJ and the rest of the staff have been able to do is really the players have bought in. And you don't always see that, right? And we're talking about programs that aren't having a lot of success right now, and maybe this is something where they found something that works for this group, and recruited to that mindset to be able to I guess embrace that.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, Roger, you got thoughts on that?
Rob has said he likes guys like that because he was an undersized guy that was told he couldn't do it. He kind of likes the underdog. Of course,
the mutt of the litter, right?
Yeah, obviously he loves having you love having a Justin LeBron, but he puts the work in. He puts the work in like he's a walk-on. I mean, but in something you said about do what they do, it just reminds me a lot of Coach Saban, be where your feet are. And they do that. They're where their feet are, and they do what they can do and what they do well, and they do it consistently over and over. And you do that in anything, any kind of business you're in or sport or whatever. If you do the right thing over and over and do it correctly and do it consistently, you're going to be successful.
So, All right. That's all the viewer questions we had. Just any final thoughts heading into the weekend? Mark, are you doing a midweek game, or you got one this week?
No, this is it.
Good. All right.
I'll head to Auburn Friday, and I'll get there early. Excited to see the renovation.
Looks great.
Looks great on TV. So
they did a nice job with it.
That'll be exciting. That's be the 15th SEC team I've seen. I have not seen Missouri.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they're coming to town. Come see them when they come to town in late April.
They might be like 0-18 then, so I don't know if you want to watch them.
It's not a good ROI.
Yeah.
Submit that expense report to do it on them right now. But
you may have to catch them in Hoover or something like that.
You can catch them in Tuscaloosa better than you can catch them in Columbia, Como, probably.
But I'm excited. I mean, anytime Alabama and Auburn play in anything,
it's great. Yeah.
So, and Auburn's better. I mean, they really are. I feel like they're a regional team, and you're going to see that these are two really close. I don't think there's a ton of difference, especially with Auburn being at home. This should
Right.
be really competitive 3 games.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Like I said, I feel like we got a little bit, pitching advantage. You got a lot of guys on the shelf, but, I feel like if I'm pairing up 3 starters against 3 starters, I feel good about that. It's just a matter of, can you build leads and hold on to them, or just, avoid the big innings. And we like I said earlier, done a great job avoiding those big innings. So, Mark, we enjoyed it. Really appreciate you being on, being flexible. We're recording. It's 10:20 at night. Everybody's having airline troubles today, all over the country. Drew's wife, Christian's wife, and so we had to kind of be real flexible tonight. We appreciate you doing it. We'd love to have you on again soon. Tell them where to find you on all the socials and all your.
Yeah. On Twitter or X, Mark, it's my name, Mark Etheridge, and really go to D1 Baseball, check out all our stuff. Joe Healy and I, subscribe. Joe Healy and I do this service for SEC fans called SEC Extra, where we give you the where it just means more, right?
Yeah.
We give you
Niche
that
stuff.
more, right? And I feel like we do a pretty good job with that. And then, this time of year, it really gets exciting because we get all our mock brackets and all of our postseason analysis and all that stuff. We go down the stretch, and really excited about the team that we put together at D1 Baseball.
Yeah, invaluable resource for college baseball fanatics like us, at D1 Baseball, at Mark Etheridge on Twitter. Subscribe, follow, just all kind of content. I mean, you can sit there, consume it all day. Roger, many thanks to you. Safe travels. Drew, enjoyed it as always. Thanks to Christian Sykes, who kind of gave it the technical guidance. Hopefully this worked out right, even though he couldn't be here helping us tonight. Crimson Crossover. Follow them for all the portal happenings. We signed a 7-footer tonight out of the portal, which is a big deal, and I'm sure he and the guys will have a lot more on that as now that the season's over and now we're in portal season. Many thanks to Peter Slide and Camp Land, who will take us home tonight with our theme song, The Joe. And we hope you enjoy this podcast, and we will see you again next week.
Swing it, boys, swing for the fence. Shove it, boys, make 'em miss. Some big league chew and a baseball souvenir. Come on, sing with me now. The Joe is home, sweet home. It's roll, tide, roll. The Joe is home, that's right. Home, sweet home. Hey, look, is that Roll Tide Willie over there? Well, it's Bama Blitz.